How has the 2012 Licensing Act changed the live music scene? David Holland, 0101 2452, University of South Wales. Before 2003, all licensing applications were processed by the courts, but the UK government in 2003 decided that this should be the decision of the local authorities. The aim of the Act in 2003 was to be more flexible with opening hours to sell alcohol and provide regulated entertainment. The Act was hoped to provide greater freedom and flexibility for the leisure and hospitality industry so that the public could be offered a greater choice. But these greater freedoms would also be balanced by providing tougher powers for local authorities and the police to deal with those who didn't act responsibly. It became apparent that the 2003 Licensing Act carried too much red tape for establishments, so a bill was written and steered through Parliament by Lord Clement Jones, a Liberal Democrat peer, who recognised that change was needed. Change was needed because, as the Independent reported in 2008, that almost 4 pubs were closing every day. Some of the reasons why pubs were closing so quickly was the wide availability of alcohol in supermarkets, and it was actually working out that it was cheaper to drink at home than it was to drink in a pub. This led to many pubs diversifying into food, but for those without the facilities to do so, other areas of diversification were needed. On October 1st, 2012, the Live Music Act 2012 that amended the 2003 Licensing Act came into being. The impact that this act had was that you no longer need a special license to stage a live music performance if the performance took place between 8 AM and 11 PM, or if it takes place at a licensed premises to an audience of no more than 200 people. On October 1st, 2012, Business Minister Michael Fallon said, "From today, businesses are freed from the red tape that holds them back." He described the previous rules that affected pub gigs and small live performances as over-the-top bureaucracy that stifles community groups and pubs. The Live Music Act of 2012 meant that live entertainment between the times of 8 AM and 11 PM became unregulated as long as the audience numbers didn't go above 200. This change to the Licensing Act of 2003 was fantastic news for many pubs across the country. It meant that previous applications and bureaucratic forms to fill in just to get a simple karaoke night were no longer needed. It meant that pubs and clubs could host karaoke, could have spontaneous singing and dancing in their venue, could have live music events, and could also bring in cabaret singers with backing tracks between the times of 8 AM and 11 PM with no extra license, meaning that they could bring people into their venue and generate more business. Any nightclub or pub that wanted to put on live music after 11 PM would still need to apply for a license. For venues that weren't having a license and putting on live music, they would have to make sure they were stopped by 11 PM and make sure that the audience doesn't exceed the numbers allowed, otherwise they would be breaking the law. Each venue would still have to have a PRS license, which can be obtained from PRS themselves, as musicians and bands will be playing cover songs in their venues, or using their backing tracks while playing with them. When speaking to David Millward of the Daily Telegraph on the 2nd of January 2012, Lord Clement Jones said, "The old Licensing Act just did not do the job it was supposed to. We were promised an explosion of live music, but in fact we have had even less. With this bill, the premise is that you'll behave yourself and we are able to put on music, but if you do cause a nuisance, residents will be able to demand a review and get conditions imposed. It will clarify matters for carol singers. For example, currently there is an exemption for music that is part or incidental to religious service. For carol singers in a shopping mall, there has been a debate over whether they qualify for the exemption. While there has been no problem with O Come All Ye Faithful, secular songs such as Jingle Bells and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer have faced legal challenge. These are the sorts of problems the bill should resolve. Another benefit of the Live Music Act 2012 for venues and for musicians was that if a venue had another floor or a different room, it meant that the venue could host two bands in two different rooms without having to apply for a license, as long as the rooms didn't exceed the audience quota. The Live Music Act also encourages venues which have never ever had a license to have live music, and it's probably encouraged them to have a go and to dabble in this market. With more venues putting on live music, this provides bands who are currently playing live more opportunity of more areas to play, but also because there's more venues, it gives new musicians more opportunity to break into the live music scene. Under the old Licensing Act in 2003, having a live instrument in a venue was a problem, but under the Live Music Act 2012, this has been totally removed, which meant that people can play their instruments in venues in various different ways. And one of the most popular ways currently is that pubs are deciding to have jam nights where people can bring their instruments and play together and make music live and have fun. Jam nights are becoming very popular and are beginning to bring back the sense of community in pubs rather than it just being a drinking establishment. The Musicians' Union welcomed the Live Act of 2012, and John Smith, the Musicians' Union General Secretary, had this to say: "The implementation of the Live Music Act signifies an exciting time for both venues and musicians, who can use the opportunity to work together to create a growing audience and profile and long-term success. As the research undertaken by PRS for Music has shown, live music can be hugely beneficial for pubs. Pubs without featured music being 3 times more likely to close than pubs with featured music." Small venues are, after all, the places where most musicians start their careers, and so promoting opportunities for live performance in small venues protects the career progression of musicians in the UK. We also believe that live music performance is an essential aspect of culture in the UK, and that it should be promoted in its own right. This is why the Live Music Act is so important.